Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new Sensibility newsletter month. This month, we're going to be talking about how the Feldenkrais method can help people from different backgrounds and different parts of the world. My guest today is Luiza Moraes. She is going to talk to us today about the relationship we have with ourselves and how the Feldenkrais method can start to heal that relationship, helping us to reconnect with ourselves and the people and the world around us. She is currently an advocacy coordinator for a local charity. She has a background in contemporary dance, academic background in contemporary dance, and she studied history as an undergrad. She is also a qualified Feldenkrais practitioner, and she also practices ancestral healing. Hopefully, that summarizes everything and gives us a good starting platform. So, welcome, Louisa. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here.
So let's kick off a little bit. So I mentioned that one of the kind of topics that we wanted to talk about today was this process of like healing the relationship we have with ourselves. Do you want to maybe give a little introduction to that, and we can start from there?
Yeah. So there is this very clear example for me. It's kind of like an anecdote of my relationship or how Feldenkrais kind of transformed that for myself. So I did my Feldenkrais training in Vienna, um, and I started back in 2017. And I'm the kind of person who's tends to be like a good student, right? So I show up to a new training, a new course with like new notebooks and, like my pencil case and all like ready to go. Let's do this. And I was very excited about it. So I showed up first day of the training with my notebook that I picked out like especially for the training with my pens and like very excited. And one of the first things that the trainer said was, you can put your notebooks away and there is not going to be a reading list. And your job here is to just keep showing up and to follow your curiosity. And it was a bit jarring for me. And as a good student, I said, okay. And um, and what I understood during that first segment of the training was that, unbeknownst to me, right, like even after a good amount of time in therapy and other many, like self-development practices,
Mm.
there was like a fundamental sense of not trusting myself, in the sense that when I was told to follow my curiosity, my sense of where that would lead was not a good place, right? So like if I follow my curiosity, at best, I'm going to get like somewhere irrelevant,
Yeah.
like I'm just going to be wandering around aimlessly and not land anywhere.
Mm.
Um, and it was a very transforming thing for me to, well, first realize that that was there,
Yeah.
and then through engaging with the methods, prove to myself again and again and again in a very concrete, physical, experiential way
Mm.
that, in fact, when I listened to myself deeply, and the more I learned how to do that, um, I got to better places,
Mm.
and to places that I actually didn't expect. One of the very unexpected things that happened in that first segment was that I went back to the apartment that I was renting during the training, and I was cooking by myself and started singing. And I was very surprised by my own voice. Like I was so in tune. There was just like such a sense of ease in my singing
Mm,
that was absolutely not where I was expecting something to show up. As a dancer, like I was like a movement nerd. I was like fully expecting to notice something else.
yeah.
And then it was my voice that it
Mm,
showed up, right? And it's funny because like you introduced me and it's like, yeah, this is my education and this and that. And then there is another part of my practice that is I came from in my artistic practice, like I came from dance
mm,
and then went into performance art and more hybrid forms of performance.
mm,
And then during the training, I had this instance in which I realized that something that I had always been interested in. So since I was little, I was really interested in paper and pens and pencils and markers and like, like that whole universe of stationery.
mm.
Uh, if anyone listening is into Japanese stationery, I'm right there with you. Uh, and um, so I had always had that interest. And also, I had always had a, a belief that it was a silly thing,
Mm,
right? That it was just like a luxury, like who cares? Like why would I prioritize like having like a super nice notebook instead of just whatever? And during the training, I had a moment that was very clear when I was debating with myself. I was if I was going to allow myself to buy this, like perceived by me as a very fancy fountain pen.
mm,
Um, and I was really excited by it, but couldn't quite justify. I was like, there was a moment. I remember, like it was one of those moments, like I remember where I was standing when that hit me.
yeah.
And it was a moment of like, wait, I know what it's like to be interested in movement and researching subtle qualities of movement and performance. And maybe this pull that I'm feeling towards materials and textures and tools is more what visual artists experience in terms of experimentation with medium,
Mm,
right? And that was just like a gate opened. And now I'm also a visual artist,
mm,
right? So there was just something that had been there, just unexpressed, or um, I was unaware of that aspect of my practice or the potential aspect of my practice.
yeah.
Um, and it was the Feldenkrais method that gave me permission to like, well, I'm on a roll of following my curiosity. Let's see what happens here.
Mm.
So,
You've kind of mentioned two different things there. Like one being this idea that you had an idea of yourself that you were a good learner, and you were prepared for that process, right?
mhm,
You had the paraphernalia for learning, and then when you came into that situation, you were met with the way that we learn here in the Feldenkrais method is different. It's
mhm,
experiential. We want you to put that stuff away and to feel yourself and to learn and to start to understand yourself without some of that equipment.
mhm,
But then it sounds like the sort of second stage of that for you was once you'd kind of gone through that, let's call it an initiation
mhm,
of putting down the stuff, kind of coming back to it in a new way, which led to an understanding of yourself, actually really valuing that part of your life and that part of yourself, and that leading you in a kind of creative avenue. So I really like how you've described that, and to me, it kind of highlights that initially the starting point in many cases is a type of disconnection from ourselves. So I wonder if maybe you could talk a little bit about that, like, what that is. I guess we don't need to go into too much detail of how we get there because that's so unique for everyone. But
Mhm.
what maybe what the Feldenkrais method can provide to people that helps them reconnect with themselves.
Yeah. I think well, there are a few things there. One, I'm like, what really comes up for me is um, a memory of many times in which I had students who came to me, um, sometimes with like a very specific issue, right? Like they have been dealing with shoulder pain, they've been seeing doctors, and like having like a whole uh, story around the shoulder pain.
Mm,
Uh, and sometimes just I work frequently I work with musicians, with classical musicians, and there is like a sense of the way that people are trained, and that takes a bit to undo certain patterns that are very deeply ingrained. And I think often what happens is that there is a lot of fear. There is, uh, when I see people coming into the the method, there is a sense of I'm not sure I can be fixed, right? Like there's something wrong with me. I'm not sure I can ever feel better. Maybe this is just life now,
mm,
right? And what the method provides, I think, is twofold. So there is on one hand, there is a very clear structure, right? So like where there is an invitation to be present with something that is very clearly delineated, right? And that creates a sense of safety when you're thinking of like an awareness through movement lesson. We're not just going anywhere, right? Like your practitioner, like your teacher is guiding you down a very specific path. And
mm,
inside that path, there is a lot of freedom for you to find your way, right?
mm,
And the other aspect of it is just the profound trust in each student to know what's best for them. And often that is I think that is like, if you use the word initiation
yeah.
um, earlier, and like sometimes people ask me, are there like advanced Feldenkrais lessons? And I always say, no, the lesson is the same. What changes is that I don't have to tell you to rest anymore, right? Like when a student gets to the point where I see that they're taking their process seriously and not waiting for me to tell them when it's time to rest
Mm.
and just listening to themselves first, that is like, oh, okay, they're in. Like that's
They've been
it,
initiated.
yeah, and it takes time to get there
Yeah.
because sadly there aren't many spaces. And even in I've done a lot of different modalities of movement,
Mm,
a lot. And like there aren't many that I know of that provide this radical autonomy and kind of like not only just there are practices that I think kind of like demand radical autonomy, but not many that I can see have the tools to take you there, right? So there is just like this slow process of learning to listen.
mm,
And like maybe to give like a more specific, like concrete example.
yeah.
Um, one of the first things that I have people notice is like, how do you breathe? What moves when you're breathing? Right. And just getting familiar with your own breathing without feeling like you have to change anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? But just like noticing, oh, when I breathe, this part here moves and I feel this. Um and the next step is, what is comfort? Like, because we live in a culture of movements that does not prioritize comfort and ease, right? Like it ranges from just like disconnection and being completely numb or unaware
Mm-hmm.
of any sort of sensation, to the gym culture of you should always be striving for more, right? Like effort equals progress, right? Like, and then the Feldenkrais method comes in and it's like, actually, no.
Yeah.
Actually, if we slow down, if we listen more, and if we develop an acute sense of where my comfort is, and that is not obvious, that takes time. And it's where I see, I, I tend to say that like the Feldenkrais method is like a tool of hope. Like there is just something that happens when someone has been dealing with an issue or a vague sense of unease
Mm-hmm.
for God knows how long. And then they start doing something, and often they don't even have words to describe what's happening, right? Like, because it's experiential, right? Like, it's not talk therapy, it's not theory,
Yeah.
right? It's of a different nature. Um, and for the first time in a long time, they feel something shifting. And what happens there, beyond the thing that shifted in a physical sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like beyond like the shoulder pain that went away for a few hours and then came back,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those few hours had not happened sometimes like in 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
But what that does is like plant a seed
Mm-hmm.
of like, oh, wait, this is not stable.
Mm-hmm.
That is not as like set in stone as I thought it was.
Yeah.
And that generates a movement towards um, improvement, towards
Yeah.
so many different things
It's
there.
it's interesting because last month's edition we were talking about adaptability and
Mhm.
um, specifically on this subject, if we're just thinking about pain as a contrast to comfort, it's very possible for us as human beings, other animals, I'm sure the same, to get used to pain levels and
Mhm.
adapt to a persistent pain level that is relatively high.
Mhm.
And to some extent, because we can adapt to it, there's a part of us that ignores that that's there in our system, in our state. So we can, which is a positive because it allows us to function in the world despite the pain. But then there's this kind of, I mean, you used the word numb there. There's this kind of numbness that exists in us because we've made these adaptations to help us deal with the difficulty that we have, you know? So I think it's a very interesting subject just to talk about that in relation to comfort and how the Feldenkrais method, the introduction of this idea of comfort, takes people in a new direction in some way.
Yes. And also, there is something that is very important for me, that is just like the affirming and validating of each person's experience,
Mm,
in the sense that even the numbness and like the familiar patterns of pain and right, like everything that um, is not necessarily what's desired, right? Like all of that has a history,
Mm.
right? Like all of that were ways in which we adapted to our reality and to the context. And so, like, because that can sometimes fall into like a place of pathologizing,
Yeah.
right? Or um, kind of like having like Feldenkrais as like the magic pill that's going to save you from all
Yeah.
your, and it's sometimes um especially for people with severe trauma,
Mm.
like with a history of very serious trauma,
Mm.
being in the body is often inaccessible,
Yeah.
right? Like so there is just like a way that it's like it's both and, right? It's like yes, there is a lot of movement possible there, and also be kind to the versions of yourself that created these patterns to begin with,
Yeah.
because that's how you made it here,
Mm.
right? So like there's basically like there's no shame, like there's no shame
No
in
judgment.
like
Yeah.
yeah, in having like this pain that has been with you for God knows how long, or the thing that you keep doing because and it doesn't work, but you keep doing it anyway, right? Like there there's no judgment, there's no shame there. We're doing the
Mm.
best that we can,
Yeah.
right? And then Feldenkrais can be a tool to move things in a different direction, and and just like reinstate a sense of movement and hope and potential,
Mm.
um, where there may have been like a sense of being stuck or stagnation.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, and I'm sure we've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but I mean, you mentioned a specific phrase there or earlier, radical autonomy.
Hmm.
I just wonder if you could kind of connect what you've just been talking about with this idea that the person is reclaiming this connection with themselves. This, you've mentioned hope and the potential for change. But
Hmm.
my sense is that the first thing that happens is the person listening to themselves, and and then it's the revelation of hope is from the person themselves rather than from an external source, which kind of ties in with the radical autonomy idea.
Yeah, I think it's it's really beautiful to watch it happen. And again, it takes a bit of time,
Mm.
right? Like I usually tell people, if you want to try Feldenkrais, I would recommend like doing it at least 3 lessons, because like the first one you don't even know what's going on,
Mm.
right? Like you're being asked to pay attention to things that's it's just like it's a very strange experience at first.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, the first step, right, like is I feel like it's not just like being asked to listen to yourself. It's just like maybe for the first time having an environment in which you are led towards yourself in
Mm.
a very experiential way. And then there is a thing that happens that is really beautiful. That is the realization that, let me see if I can explain this. So it's like I lay down on the floor and I listen to these instructions. And I've been doing this for a while, and I start to understand that there's no point in pushing. And I'm just really doing what my teacher is asking me to do, that is prioritizing my comfort and my sense of ease, listening to when it's time to rest and when it's time to move and where my attention is going, right? And like I entered this space of just really listening to myself first.
Mm,
And then I just watch myself go through a process that is a movement that seemed impossible suddenly opens up to me,
mm,
not through pushing, not through wanting to do it, but through actually like resting in my own ability to regulate and to know how much to do.
mm,
And when I stand up after the lesson, I feel great. I feel like the tallest I've ever been. And I remember like my first Feldenkrais lessons that were just like, I don't know what just happened, but I love it. Like I don't understand how this works, but I want to keep doing this,
mm,
right? And I think there is a switch that goes off there because like the moment you experience, no one told you, right? Like it's not a teacher telling you if you do it like this, it's going to work,
yeah.
or right, like this is the way to do that. It's more of like, and I love the project of being a Feldenkrais practitioner and of like being in the environment, like kind of like disappearing into the background so that the student's experience is really what's in focus,
Mm,
right? So like when that's successful, what comes from that is a deep sense of self-trust that then expands into other areas of life.
mm,
You don't it doesn't stop at the Feldenkrais lesson, right? Like it doesn't stop um in the improved movement or like the pain that went away, because that becomes a principle that you start to apply to other things,
mm, yeah.
right? Like you can start applying that to your relationships, to your artistic practice, to your any creative endeavor, right? Like I'm of the opinion that everyone is an artist,
Mm,
right? Like I don't, like I don't differentiate between artists with capital A and the rest of the people. It's like, like some of us are actually like just making stuff,
mm,
but we function the same way, like creativity is innate. So um but yeah, it's a very beautiful thing to witness and to facilitate in a sense. I love being a Feldenkrais practitioner because it's like we do very little, really, in a
mm,
sense, like there is, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like, yes, there is like a lot of training to get to this point where we're actually doing very little
mm,
and allowing the students experience to be the main thing. It takes training to do that,
yeah.
right? Like to not try to intervene or um and the other aspect, so like I've been thinking as I'm talking, I noticed that I've been thinking more about ATMs,
Mm,
about awareness through movement. And well, this is going to everybody, right? Like to the general public. So let me take a moment to to say what an ATM is. So awareness through movement is a lesson in which you're being guided verbally, right? So you have verbal instructions from your teacher, and you're doing your practice. Most of the time we do that in a group. Um, and then we have a different application or a different kind of lesson that's called functional integration, right? And in a functional integration, it's a one-on-one situation, and the lesson is delivered through touch. And so as I'm talking and thinking about how things happen in an ATM, right, like with verbal instruction and watching what's happening with the student, there is the other side of it that is what happens in a functional integration. That is, I am touching the students and I sense what's happening. And the same way that with the ATMs, there's a threshold that I notice something really starts to happen. With FI, it's like there is the initial negotiation of trust in which it's kind of like the burden is on me as a practitioner to establish trust. And the way that that happens in the Feldenkrais method is that I'm going to touch my student with deep respect and with curiosity, right? Like, and with no agenda, with no, I'm I'm coming in to fix stuff. There's nothing to fix,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm here to listen. I'm here to understand how you move. And from that place, we then enter coming from dance, for me, it's like there's a lot of dance improvisation that happens there.
Yeah. I was going to use
Uh,
the word dialogue, but yeah,
yeah, it's a
same idea.
dance.
Yeah.
It's very small. It's a very, very subtle, very small dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that, we spoke about initially before we kind of came live with the interview, that talking about this sort of development of trust within the one-to-one work, where you're working with the medium of touch, and obviously that has a load of connotations for people as well.
Mhm.
And but then there's this I don't know, the way it kind of makes sense to me is that in some way you're using yourself as a tool to inform the person about how to listen to themselves.
Mhm.
And, within the awareness through movement lessons, which are the taught lessons, you're doing that through verbal instruction. You're saying, pay attention to this, slow down, rest when you need to, don't do more than you that feels comfortable, etc. You've got all of these kind of like contain ways of containing the process for the person doing it. Within the one-to-one work, the touch-based work, you're kind of conveying that through touch, you know.
Mhm.
So I wonder if maybe you could just say a little bit about that and this
Mhm.
process of developing self-respect in communication with one another.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there is like the bottom line really, like in any kind of lesson, for me is a deep trust and the potential of the person I'm interacting with.
Mm,
And often when they don't trust themselves, right? So it's my job to establish that sense of trust, or
mm,
like, and clearly that's not, like that's not something that happens like in 1 second,
yeah.
right? But it's a process.
Mm,
um and what I find is that, yeah, touch is a very sensitive topic. And I think, unfortunately, the reason it's so sensitive is because we don't have many references of touch going well,
mm,
right? Of touch being safe.
mm,
And that is very real, right? Like it's so like going back to that principle of validating uh your history and your experience,
mm,
right? You have absolutely no business trusting me without taking the time to establish if this is a safe interaction or not.
Mm.
right? Like I would never ask anyone that.
Yeah.
So it's like it's my job to be steady in creating safety through touch.
Mm.
And often what happens is also is again a very beautiful thing that is sensed through my hands, right? There is a point in which there is like an allowing me in,
Mm.
and that comes from feeling safe
Yeah.
in being touched, and the safety comes from the fact that I am not trying to do anything to
Mm.
the person, right? Like I'm not here to like um
Yeah. Impose a new way of being, or yeah.
right, yeah, and like thinking of like other references of touch when it comes to movement practices, right? So
Mm.
there is like the touch that is corrective, right? So like in a dance class, you're gonna have like the touch that is like here.
Do it
This is
like
where the
this.
pelvis should be.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a very loud truck. Do you hear it?
No, it's fine.
Great. I love this noise canceling stuff. So, like there's a corrective touch that is, uh, right? Like I'm coming in to show you what to do.
Mm.
And we don't do that in Feldenkrais,
Yeah.
right? Like, and there is, often it's the first time really that people have been touched like that.
Mm.
Um, and it's very touching. It's a very positive experience. And,
Yeah.
like we've been in our conversation before we went on the record, we were talking about the word healing, right?
Mm.
And which is not a word that we use in the Feldenkrais method, right? Like um, it's not part of what we say that we do,
Yeah.
right? But I would argue that because relationships can be healing,
Yeah.
any relationship, right? Like with a practitioner of any method, or with a teacher, or with friends, a romantic relationship, like all of those can potentially be healing,
Yeah.
right? So like there is like a sense of like a corrective experience
Mm.
there of like, oh, I have been touched my entire life with like this unspoken, because this is like absolutely nonverbal,
Yeah.
right? And often for the people who are touching, they're unaware of that themselves,
Mm.
right? But at best, the touch was directive, right? Like there is something in the touch that tells you that there is a right way to do something,
Yeah.
that this is what I want you to do, or this is what you should do.
Yeah.
Being touched in a way that is accepting, present, listening, like being from someone who's in a state of listening to themselves and then to you,
Mm.
right? Like that in itself can be a corrective experience
Yeah.
that's um opens up a lot of possibility.
Mm.
I believe in that.
Yeah. I think that
And
that kind
that's
of that connects back with kind of what we were talking earlier about in terms of people's understanding of themselves or the idea they have of themselves. And often there are, like you say, these kind of unspoken things that we have about ourselves that we live with on a daily basis, but we haven't verbalized. One of those may be how we interact in, you know, more intimate situations, or just in and around the people that we live with through touch, you know. And kind of as you're saying, just the simple fact of non-directive, accepting, non-judgmental touch can provide some healing, using the word healing,
Mhm.
to a person just in itself, without talking about the shoulder pain that they have, or why they've come to you in the first place. There's something about
Mhm.
just that type of touch that really goes into the person in a different way. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's really very powerful
Mm,
as as an experience. And again, like as you said, uh it's not an abstract, right? Like it's not an idea.
mm,
It is a thing that happens, right? Like it's an experience that happens to you in your body. And that's um I remember I've worked with my grandma quite a lot. So during the lockdown periods, I was living in Europe and my family was in Brazil, and I had ATMs with them twice a week,
hmm
and it just became like a social thing, right? Like, and I was
yeah.
convinced that my grandma was showing up just for the conversation.
hmm
Uh, Turns out she became like a Feldenkrais, like she's ready for Feldenkrais anytime, and she's in her 80s, and when I gave her a functional integration lesson when I went to visit, the way that she described it was I felt like I was moving through clouds. And I think that there is something uh, so wise and clear about that image
mm,
of like what it's like to move in a way. I have this I have this way that I talk to students about when doing an ATM. I
hmm
talk about staying in the middle of the pool
hmm
with your movement. So like the image is like, like when you're swimming and you're not hitting any edges,
hmm
right? Like you're not going to check how far the pool goes. You're just stay in the middle,
yeah.
like, or sometimes I refer to it as when you have like a layered cake and there is a one layer that you really like
mm,
and the other layers that are okay, right? Like stay with just the layer that you like, right?
mm,
Like just that juicy core of the movement for you.
yeah.
Um, and I think my grandma's saying like moving through clouds, it just the image is very potent
mm,
of moving in a way that is easy, is fluid.
yeah.
It's not um, met with resistance.
hmm
There is I love that image.
Yeah, I
I love,
think
and I love quoting my grandma.
I think that as an idea in itself, an idea and an experience has the flavor of being a little radical or it's not the regular experience that we have in life, this sort of like effortless, flowy, no
Yeah.
resistance state. So maybe just kind of, because we've been talking for a while, just to kind of wrap up.
Mhm.
I mean, in terms of that, I know that you ran a workshop called Rest and Resistance, and we've talked about radical autonomy, this kind of idea that, some of these ideas that we help people connect with in Feldenkrais is a little countercultural, is a little bit something that they won't have experienced before, and maybe a little challenging even sometimes.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I think there is something that, and when I name a workshop Rest is Resistance, I think there is just something that I am very aware that our movement of culture or culture of movement, sorry, is not one that prioritizes our well-being,
Mm,
right? And that can, like, the culture of movement is not dissociated from other aspects of culture, right? So then what I think is very powerful here is that when we start to reclaim our own movements, there is a possibility, and because I mentioned before this, when you start to really experience this, the fact that when you listen to yourself, something good happens,
Mm,
right? Like that lesson in itself, extrapolated to other contexts and other parts of life, right? Like it's something that you then carry in your body,
mm,
right? And for so many of us, um, that is not something that is deemed desirable for us to be in our own autonomy,
mm,
right? It's a lot more difficult. It's going to be a lot more difficult to manipulate someone
mm,
if they are deeply attuned to themselves,
mm,
right? Like and connected to a sense of potential and hope and playfulness and curiosity, right? Like it's going to be a lot more difficult to destabilize them, to make
mm.
them do anything that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
And in a sense of that, that is a very radical thing.
Mm,
It's going completely against the grain of most of what's proposed to us.
yeah.
And I think it's like there are some feminist thinkers who talk about making the revolution irresistible,
Mm,
right? And I think there is something there of once you start connecting to yourself and to your own sense of movement in a way that is affirming and validating and leads you to good places, the tendency is that you're going to apply that to other areas of life and to your relationships, and that kind of like
mm,
like you can think of like pollinizing, right? Like that spreads,
yeah.
um and that can be quite powerful.
Mm,
And one thing that I think is important to also, like in the same vein, right? Like it's important to also name is that the Feldenkrais method is a great tool, and it's also one tool,
mm,
right? Like I am clearly very excited about it, and like I believe in what it can do.
yeah.
And also I'm aware of the fact that people come to a practice with a lot of knowledge already,
Mm,
with a lot of wisdom that they've accumulated. So like there's also not a it's like we're not selling,
yeah.
snake oil, like in a sense that it's not like, oh, this is the magic thing that's going to change your life forever. It's like it may well be,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're connecting with the ideas. And that's also another thing that I tell students, like, do you like my voice?
Mm,
Because if you don't, or if you don't like my accent or the way that I articulate things, I'm probably not the best teacher for you.
mm,
Like there is just something about um comfort in that too,
yeah.
right? Like understanding what works for you and what doesn't.
Yeah. It's like very simple, like meeting the individual's needs and
Yeah,
kind of modeling that is part of the process, that it's okay to meet your own needs, you know?
right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay to listen to yourself. I'm not going to be hurt,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I don't have to be the teacher for you.
Yeah.
So there, and that for me is a respectful thing.
Mm,
Like it's like my work as a practitioner starts there, right? That it's like I'm not demanding that you like the way that I speak,
yeah.
right? Or the way that I think.
So
That
here, here's how my head works. So with that said, if people do like the sound of your voice and they want to take lessons with you, how would they get in contact with you?
Yes, so I think we should have this information in the
I'll provide
description.
links. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So we can have links. So I teach ATMs online
Yeah.
on Zoom every Monday. My morning, I'm in the Chicago area, so that is at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Hmm.
Do the time zone math wherever you are. Um, and I would also like to provide a recorded lesson.
Hmm. Great.
So if people want to give it a try, um, see if it works, and like I truly see if you like it, like this is the person who you're going to be listening to. You gotta like the voice. You gotta like the way that the person functions,
Yeah.
right? Um, and then the other thing is signing up to my newsletter and being there kind of like to hear about all the different things that I do,
Yeah.
that like Feldenkrais art, spiritual practice. They're like I go in many directions
Yeah.
as I think that's the way I like it.
Yeah. And I guess kind of sharing some of the ideas that we've discussed and, exploring you being yourself in the world and, helping other people. And I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot of good stuff there for
I
people to
mean,
access.
I think, like that is one of the things that I also try to model,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't have to be one thing, right? And I've had people tell me like, oh, you should have like separate websites for things.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I no, that like it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It's right, like it's I know how these things connect and why they connect. Like I've crafted my professional capacity very carefully, right? So then I think that model is also something that is like the the expectations and like the paths that are laid out for us don't necessarily make sense from like a very like intimate inner needs and curiosities kind of sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like I'm here to be like the the weird like the weird artist Feldenkrais
Yeah,
spiritual.
I don't think weird is the right word to describe you, but I think yeah, I get the picture of like a complex but beautiful tapestry, Like
Oh, I love
that's
that. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. I've really enjoyed it personally. I hope people have enjoyed it as well. As Louisa said, you can get in contact with her via the links that we provide. She will provide a awareness through movement lesson as well, and she is teaching online going forward. I think starting when are you start? You said October. You're starting that?
Oh, that is the locally. So like
Oh, okay,
yeah, so like I have a dance class starting in October,
okay,
but it's an in-person class in Elgin, Illinois.
yeah,
Online ATMs for now.
yeah, okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Same.